The Extar EP9 Gen 2 tabletop review and field strip coming up next on GBGuns. Really happy to have one of these in hand. Finally, a lot of you have requested over the years that we cover this thing, and about the time that got popular, these guys started disappearing. This is the Gen 2 with a lot of changes, part of which will help them keep more of these things available. Why such the crazy demand? Well, what you're looking at is a PDW style firearm, legally a pistol, fed on Glock mags that weighs about 4 pounds and retails for about 450 bucks. Heck of a deal for an innovative and different product. Before we get into all of the features and what makes this thing different, as well as some of the things that I really like about this, I want to give you a little bit of backstory about the company. The founder of Extar Arms actually has about 40 years of experience in polymer, mostly in moldings and high-performance plastics. And yes, both receivers on this thing are polymer. In fact, most of it is. Some changes from the first generation, which I'll get into later. But when the founder saw the assault weapons ban hit in the 90s, he turned to applying his abilities and knowledge with polymers to making 223, 5.56 chambered firearms out of polymer. Why? Well, because they were too light to be caught under the assault weapons ban, and so were still legal. And that's a true patriot. I greatly respect that. That business has since gone away, and now there's Extar Arms out of Lake Havasu, Arizona, who is putting out these things. Really cool setup. My tabletop, of course, doesn't fit everything in view, but I want to go over some of the features, what you get with the gun, and all those same details that we do in a tabletop. Right off the bat, two things you should know. We have done some things to this firearm since we got it. Removed this, which was wrapped around the receivers. It says, final inspection, test fire. Do not attempt to seat foil-loaded magazine on closed bolt. Right there, a good tip, something that you need to know. Additionally, I installed the brace, which came with this card. And this brace is of Extar's own design. This is one of the changes they made, freeing them from reliance on a third party for a stabilizing brace. It does include the Velcro strap and everything. I haven't put that on yet, but the brace just pushes straight on and actually has some little seats in it that match a tab on the back of this buffer tube. So it is a little bit different. In fact, they did a lot of things different on this, and I think that's a good thing. In the bag with the manual, you get your decal, you get your Velcro strap, and a nice Allen wrench for adjusting the trigger. That's right, on a gun that comes in at $449, there is an adjustable trigger, which is pretty cool, and your registration card. I took a look through the manual, as I always do. How well a manual's written tells you how well a company wants you to know and understand their product, and the better you understand the product, the probably more likely you are to have a good time with it. They have this general firearm safety rules, which is 26 long, rather long, but it does mention in here to not use aluminum cased ammunition or remanufactured ammunition. That's because this is a blowback design, and typically with aluminum cases, they haven't finished their expansion and contraction before the blowback starts to pull on the extraction, and that's when you can end up with shorn cases or other kinds of nasty jams. It also mentions in here to not attempt to use a drum magazine. I find that to be interesting. Maybe the weight would be pulling down too hard on the magazine catch. I'm not sure why. But the rest of the instructions are nice and clear. Excellent photos. They spent some time putting this together. And it goes through really anything that you would need to know about this firearm. Not only for experienced firearm shooters, since this is a slightly different gun, but also I think it's well written and very clearly illustrated for people new to firearms. So good job to Extar on the manual. You also get included with it 3 of Extar's own magazines. It is a Glock pattern magazine gun, but Extar, another way of saving money, keeping costs down, and taking better control of their supply issues, is to produce their own magazines. So these are Glock pattern magazines, 18 rounders with just a witness window at the bottom. These are a new product for them, so I'm sure there will be some development going. Don't worry, when we get to the range, we will run our whole plethora of Glock pattern mags through here to find out what works and what doesn't. Now on to the gun. We're going to start at the muzzle. Muzzle is half by 28 threads, which is great. Means that I can put my can on it easily because all of my adapters and things, of course, are half by 28. 6.5 inch barrel, and it has this flash can on here, which is just hand tightened using a split washer type setup, so that you don't need a tool. If you did want to get in there and wrench anything on, this M-lock at the 3, 6, and 9 o'clock hand guard, which is also a smaller diameter than what they used to have previously, is removable with 2 Phillips screws, is all it takes on the side. You notice that we have a rail up front. I did see this slight gap here in rail, but it appears to be the same height, or at least at a height difference small enough that it probably won't matter on anything you're going to be shooting 9mm at if you want to run irons. 6.5 inch barrel though is great. I'm a big believer if you're going to go with a PDW style platform like this and a larger firearm. Granted, this is still only just over 4 pounds, and I believe it was 24 inches or so complete, so very compact. But if you're going to go bigger than a handgun, you might as well get more energy than a handgun, and that's where that 6.5 inch barrel is going to be great. You're going to get excellent performance out of your rounds. I also noticed that with this step here, just in playing with it once I got it in the house, I can wrap my thumb over, for a true thumb over bore, and keep my thumb out of line of sight of any sights that are up there, or red dot, or whatever you want to use. We have a left side charging handle. Sounds pretty clean aside from a little bit of spring noise, which is pretty typical. I did also notice in the manual that they say to not oil it. You can if you absolutely insist, but this is designed to be run dry, which is pretty cool. We usually run guns as they come out of the box, and that will certainly be the case with this. I guess when you have polymer on polymer, for the most part, you don't need much lubrication. You can see we've got a standard AR style paddle, bolt catch and release, and a standard AR style trigger group and safety, which is cool. That trigger, by the way, we'll show clear, feels pretty nice. The shoe of it is broad with a slight raise in the middle, but it's very comfortable. A little bit creep and break, feels like an AR trigger. Very authoritative reset that takes you right back to the wall. So this should be a fun one to shoot. And as I said, it's AR pattern and adjustable. It is a steel trigger group. They used to be polymer in the Gen 1s. That was one of the upgrades that they made per people's requests. Taking a look in our magazine well, you can see we've got some ribs in there to help keep the overall diameter as it should be, but also still let junk get out of there. I can get the light to shine on those. There you are. There's our hole for being able to adjust the trigger. It's got a B5 Systems semi-vertical grip, which is great because the total length of pull on this is rather short. It is a very compact system. And we have a QD point in our end plate, if you will. So all very clean cut. Next, we'll field strip this, take a look inside the EP9 Gen 2. Field stripping this thing is somewhat like an AR, but you might notice we've only got one pin here. These pins are snug, and in taking a look inside the gun, as I'll show you, you can see one of the things that I suspect is a change from the Gen 1. Unfortunately, we never had hands on the Gen 1, so I can't do a side-by-side. If you'd like to see more side-by-side notes, I suggest you go check out Buddy Tech's video. He did a great job, or they did a great job of comparing the Gen 1 and 2. So you see it just pulled off there. That's because we have a shelf and hook style setup for up front, and we can now pull our bolt out. Taking a look down inside the lower receiver, we can see that we've got, there we go camera, thank you, steel reinforcement in here through where the pins go. In the past, with polymer lowers, that's been a stress point, is right through here, and you typically would get a crack right through here because this is a thin area of polymer and there's a little bit of pressure that happens. This setup though looks to be reinforced, so I don't think we'll have many issues there. You can see it's a standard AR looking trigger, nice beefy ejector we've got there. This also does have last round bolt hold open, which is a nice touch. They say that their buffer system is unique. I'm not seeing, so typically there's a detent here that gets pushed down, and I believe that's what was described in the manual. They say that the recoil on this system is different. They've changed the buffer using polymers to make things a little more comfortable. Let me double check the manual and see, but if you guys are seeing what I'm seeing, camera, play along. Yeah, it's not quite going to do it. Anyways, there's a metal hook there that is not your standard detent. Probably a good thing to keep people from messing with and changing that when it doesn't need to be changed. With blowback, it's all about bolt mass, buffer mass, and of course spring rate to keep things running smoothly. Here's our bolt. You can see we've got this sort of fin that's going to be riding in the upper receiver to keep things straight, and an AR style extractor it looks like. This pin here is what holds in your firing pin, and the firing pin is spring loaded, which is great to help reduce the risk of slam fires, which can happen sometimes in 9mm ARs. Getting it back together, of course, is just a reverse of all that. Walk through it while I talk. When we get this out to the range, what we're planning to do is our standard battery of tests. So for something like this, we'll of course start with our multi-mag test to see which Glock pattern magazines work and don't work through it. You'll get cold shot impressions, and then we'll do our what's for dinner test, which can be particularly interesting in blowback operated guns, because with each round creating a different pressure peak and pressure wave, or dwell if you will, it can change the way a gun runs. I really want to get my can on this thing, but since that alters the performance of guns, especially a blowback gun, we'll do our testing unsuppressed. You can expect full mag plus one, cold impressions, multi-mag, and a what's for dinner test. As far as accuracy, we'll do some practical accuracy with it, I think. Curious what you guys think we should throw on this as far as optic wise. Let me know your favorites in the comments below, and we'll see you on the range. Thanks for watching.